Hello and welcome to Fidelity Connect. I'm your host, Agnes Doherty. Today, we're continuing our CEO series with a very special guest, the driving force behind one of the most influential social platforms on the web. Steve Huffman is the co-founder and CEO of Reddit, the online home to millions of conversations, including Fidelity Canada's popular Ask Me Anything community. For those of you who may not be familiar with the platform, Reddit is a massive online network of communities where people dive deep into topics that they're passionate about, from investing and personal finance to technology, science, and pretty much everything in between. Under Steve's leadership, Reddit has grown to a cultural force. So how is Reddit reshaping the future of online engagement, and what opportunities does it present for advisors? I'm pleased to be joined today by Reddit's co-founder and CEO, Steve Huffman, to unpack all of this and more. I'm going to kick off by saying I am a huge fan of Reddit. So Steve, it is a pleasure to have you joining us today.
Morning, Agnes. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing this.
Yeah, so 20 years is a milestone. You co-founded Reddit back in 2005. And that was a very different time in the internet. So let's kick things off by talking about how Reddit has evolved from 20 years ago until today.
Sure. So it's been a lifetime for us on the internet. Reddit actually, in 2005 when we started it, this was basically before social media existed. And so what we were doing is we were trying to build a place simply where you could find new and interesting links online. And it was literally just links. And so users would submit links. They would vote on them up or down. And then eventually you could have conversations about those links. But in the very early days, Reddit was just one community, one big pile of links. We used to describe it as like the Billboard top 40, but for internet links. So good stuff would stay at the top for longer, and less good stuff would kind of rise and fall more quickly. But that was the very beginning. But since then, Reddit has evolved into a massive community of communities that covers basically kind of every topic, experience, kind of in the human experience imaginable.
I mentioned I'm a huge Reddit fan. I use it almost every day. I think one of the things that I love about it the most is it feels like any possible question I have has already been asked and answered on the platform. And that's a classic Redditism, right? That there's no such thing as a unique experience because it's already happened on Reddit. If I'm someone listening today that isn't really familiar with Reddit, how would you sort of go into a little bit more detail to describe the platform?
So Reddit is communities, and the communities cover every topic imaginable. So whatever you're into, whatever you're going through. And so, some of those communities will be very familiar, right? News and sports, politics, every movie, TV show. But many are kind of unique to Reddit. Maybe not unique to the human experience, but, whether you're becoming a parent for the first time, or getting your first job, or changing jobs, or going through relationships ups and downs, or any kind of medical or physical or even mental malady that you might be experiencing, Reddit is a place where you can find other people going through the same thing, or people who have gone through the same thing. And so I actually think the best analogy for Reddit is to think of Reddit as a city. And so just like real world cities are technically like physical things built out of, steel and cement, cities are really living organisms. And, what can you do in a city? You can live and work and play and go shopping and eat, right? You can basically experience all of humanity in a city. In fact, I think cities are inseparable from humanity. Reddit is like a digital city. You can go there to share a few laughs. You can go there to learn. You can go there to research. You can go there just to be connected with your fellow human beings. You can go to give or receive advice. You can make product purchasing decisions. And so Reddit really is this, just like real world cities are actually kind of like living organic things. Reddit itself is a kind of digital version of that. It's a living, organic space on the internet where you can connect with, people about anything and everything.
I read this interesting stat recently. So in the US, Reddit was the sixth most searched word on Google last year. So people are actually going to Google to search for Reddit. And I find that so fascinating. And I'm just wondering, what's your opinion on why you've seen such an explosion of user growth in more recent years?
Yeah, so people on the internet want what Reddit has, which is authentic information and viewpoints, perspectives, advice about everything. And it's actually funny. So in the last 90 days, Reddit's still the sixth most searched term, literally the word Reddit on Google. So internet users are going to Google and then typing in the word Reddit because they know that's the best way to get an authentic answer. Today, or in the last few months, the word Reddit is positioned between the words news and the word Trump, which I think actually probably puts us in the kind of right spot on the internet culture map, which is right in the middle between, those two things. But at the end of the day, people want what Reddit has, which is an authentic place to connect with other people. One of the things I think we're really proud of at Reddit, or the way we look at our work, is that we're fulfilling the promise of the internet, connecting people regardless of geography or language around common interests.
So you co-founded the company in 2005. You took on the CEO role in 2015. Tell us about some key lessons that you've learned over the past 2 decades, and how has that sort of shaped how you approach your role as CEO?
So part of our perspective is shaped first starting Reddit as basically this fun project where you could find new and interesting things and share a few laughs. But during our time, we watched social media come into an existence and grow and become whatever social media is. And so along the way, we've had many opportunities to be like social media or not be like social media. And so that's watching social media grow has actually, I think, helped crystallize what Reddit is and the reason we do things the way we do. And so I think one of the big lessons that we've learned is sticking true to ourselves and what makes Reddit unique. So, for example, on Reddit, we don't use the friends and follower model that social media uses. We organize people around communities. And so we've become religious about communities and connecting people around passion and interest. Not people you know and not people you know of, but people like you or going through the same challenges as you. And all of the ranking of content on Reddit, whether it's a post or comment, is done through voting up or down. And so on Reddit, things cannot become popular unless a group of people working together in a community decide to make it popular, which means Reddit is more naturally protected against the most polarizing content, because polarizing content by definition has a similar number of ups and downs. And it'll stay at zero. On Reddit, it doesn't matter how famous you are, how popular you are, every post and comment starts at 0 points and has to earn its visibility. And so, over the last 20 years, we've really learned to value what makes Reddit special, what makes the people on Reddit special, and really kind of double and triple down on those dynamics. Even though it's meant we've been a maybe slower grower than the other social media platforms, I think it also means that Reddit, the platform, is more authentic and is more resilient to changes that happen in the world.
And as CEO, you sort of mentioned growth. Technology is moving so incredibly fast. Like, how do you continue to stay ahead of the curve and also really instill that culture in your teams?
I think the most important thing is, again, to have a connection to what people want. And so for us, it's less about chasing, a new internet fad. For example, one of the questions I get a ton from investors is, what's your video strategy? I say, well, we don't really think about a video strategy. We think about how do we connect people to have conversations about things that matter to them. Now, on the internet, often the thing that people want to talk about is a video. So of course you can watch and enjoy videos on Reddit, but we don't pursue a video strategy. We pursue a conversation strategy. And so that's, I think, an example of the sort of thing where, we don't have to be, I think, chasing trends or fads. We just want people on Reddit to be able to talk about trends and fads and what's going on in their world. And so I think there's always a kind of Reddit way of thinking about things. But for us, I think it's often meant that we need to be more maybe patient or deliberate about what we're building and really understanding like why we're doing this for Reddit as opposed to some other motivation. That's been, I think, one of the most important things that we've learned and continue to do. I think it's one of the reasons we get to continue to do what we're doing 20 years later.
I've heard you say before that Reddit is one of the most human places on the internet. I think it's a really cool quote. And so, but increasingly we're seeing AI being brought in to really revolutionize how we do business. So how are you sort of balancing that human element, but obviously leveraging AI as well to enhance your business?
So that's a really great question. Let me kind of answer it from two directions. So on one part of Reddit, the main part of Reddit, our core product that we've been talking about, is the community and conversation product. And when you're in that part of Reddit, you don't want to talk to an AI, you want to talk to other people. And so keeping the humanity of Reddit is really critically important to us. And it's an increasing challenge of knowing that the person you're talking to is really a person. And so there's lots of technology that we use to get better and better at that, and that will continue to evolve. Now, increasingly, there's another way of using Reddit. So we've been online for 20 years, and people have been talking about everything. As you mentioned at the top of the show, every question has been asked and answered on Reddit at some point. Whether it's a big question, like, what should I be prioritizing, in my career or in my relationships, or a small question like what sort of headphones should I buy for traveling? The answer is on Reddit. Mm-hmm. Now, for that type of use case, AI is really, really helpful, right? Using AI to summarize, like maybe there's 100 posts about headphones on Reddit, probably thousands. Having AI summarize all of that and give you the answer is really valuable as well. And so we think about how do we use AI to enhance the community experience. So maybe we can make things safer, or we can make moderation on Reddit more effective. Or if you're in I want to mine Reddit for information, that's where summaries and AI can be really, really powerful. And so I think there's a bit of an evolution here of how do we keep our humanity, in the world of AI, but how do we also use AI to practically make the Reddit experience safer, better, more efficient? And so all of that's on the table for us.
One of the things that we love to use here at Fidelity Canada is the AMA, or the Ask Me Anything feature on Reddit. We find it's really helpful in bringing our portfolio managers and our subject matter experts to our client base here in Canada. So can you tell us a little bit more about Ask Me Anything? What is that, and how did that come to life?
Sure. So the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, can refer to two things. One, there's a community on Reddit. It's one of the largest communities on Reddit called I Am A. So, this can be, I am a CEO of a tech company, ask me anything. And what this creates is a kind of like a live QA between, the answerer and the community, covering every topic imaginable. And they really mean, if you're participating there, it really means ask me anything. And so we'll have the two most popular AMAs. One was, I'm president of the United States, ask me anything. And that was when President Obama did an AMA. It was almost 10 years ago now. And one of the other most popular ones was actually a 6-part series. I am a vacuum cleaner salesman. Ask me anything. And so really the whole gamut. And this gives you the community, I think, a lens into the world, into somebody else's world. And so you'll find questions being asked and answered there that may never get asked or answered in another context. And then outside of the I am a community, people will just use this post structure all the time. And so, maybe for your audience, it's I'm a financial advisor, ask me anything, or I'm a new parent, ask me anything. And I think just that structure, that conversational structure, and that willingness to talk about anything is one of the things that I think is really, truly special on Reddit. Now, if you're going to do an AMA, though, you really have to, lean into the anything part and be open to everything. That's the way that makes it kind of work best and be truly special.
Okay, I need to go back to the vacuum cleaner salesperson. Just out of curiosity, do we know why that took off? Why was that such a hot topic? Do you do research on that after the fact?
I think a lot of these things, I think what Reddit continually shows is that everybody has something interesting to say or interesting to share. Everybody's life is interesting in some way. Mm-hmm. And I think we lose track of this on social media. And so the way I think about it is like on the major social media platforms, 99% of the content is created by 1% of the participants. And so, and I say that without judgment, but it's manicured, it's perfect, it's high production. And so that's content created by the 1%. But on Reddit, the way we think about it is the other 99% of people also have something interesting to say. Stories they've never told before, funny moments of their life or things they've learned. And on Reddit, people reveal that. And so one of my favorite things to do is to follow a community for a hobby that I don't have. Like for a couple of years, I used to read the cross-stitch community. Like cross-stitch, like the needlework hobby.
Oh.
I never did cross-stitch. It's just for some reason, I think it's really interesting to see beginners interacting with the, super experienced people talking about a hobby like that. I don't know why, but there's something really, I think, endearing and fun about that. And so on Reddit, you get to see the world through somebody else's eyes. And I think that's a really special thing about Reddit and a special thing about the internet is it makes humanity feel more human.
I love that. So if I'm a financial advisor watching right now and I want to start participating in Reddit, I want to become more engaged in Reddit and engaging with my clients through Reddit, what advice would you give to those advisors?
So my best advice would be before you use Reddit for work. Now you can use it for work, but before you use it for work, you need to use it for yourself. And so I'd say go to Reddit and find a hobby that you have or want to have, or find a book or TV show or movie or something you've experienced recently, and just start to enjoy Reddit about that topic and get a sense for how people behave and kind of what the community norms are, which is basically being nice and being open. And then I think you can start working your way into Reddit in a more professional context. But again, if you're going to show up professionally, I still think you have to show up with this mentality of, I'm here to give. And again, that's like the same thing you would do in the real world as well. I think if you show up with a mentality of, I'm here to give, I'm here to be helpful, mm-hmm. I'm here to provide some advice, you'll find that you're helping your customer, helping your client, and over the long term, right, helping your business as well. But I think that kind of respectful giving mentality is required to be successful on Reddit.
So when it comes to sort of like people giving financial advice or seeking financial advice on a platform like Reddit, how do you sort of ensure that you have that sort of free range discourse, but also ensuring that sort of the right information and the quality information really rises to the top?
Yeah, so there's a literal answer to that. So if you want to get to the top of Reddit, content gets there by being voted on, so up and down. And so why do people vote up on things? Because they like it, because they appreciate it, because they want it to be more popular. And why do they vote down on things? Because they don't like it, or they disagree with it, or the person speaking is maybe being rude, or being a jerk. And so there's I think a lot of dimensions to why people vote the way they do, but the voting is essential. But it's I think through the wisdom of the crowds, people can select, separate the good content from the not good content. But it is an organic kind of living process. And financial advice is, I think, a particular type of conversation. But more broadly, I think this dynamic is really, really powerful because it's how people broadly decide, what should be more popular or not, or what should spread or not. But I think it's an essential part of kind of democracy, is to kind of let all ideas kind of participate in the marketplace of ideas and then pull the good ones out of it. And that's what Reddit, I think, is exceptional at doing.
In your 20 years experience, what's been the most interesting or the funniest subreddit or community or conversation that you've seen on the platform?
Oh, I mean, my gosh, there's so many over the years. One of my favorite posts, so we talked about the vacuum cleaner salesman. Mm-hmm. There was one where it was in a weightlifting subreddit. I think it was actually just about gyms or something. But somebody was talking about not having the motivation to work out. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger replied. Cool. And basically gave his point of view on what it means to go really hard at the gym. And he just gave it as a human being. The only reason you would know is Arnold Schwarzenegger is because his username, was Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the advice was just, I think, so genuine and so well received, and given with the motivation of just being helpful to somebody who shares that passion of working out. That was, I think, a really special moment. And then on Reddit, Reddit is such a silly place. One of my other favorite posts was a guy, he was doing an AMA, and he said, I'm here with my grandfather. He doesn't know how to use computers. But he sells this mayonnaise called Grandpa Wiggly's mayonnaise. And you can ask me anything about my grandfather and his mayonnaise business. And it went on and on and on for a couple of days, this mayonnaise post. And then it turned out later that it was actually just some college kid doing a creative writing thing. There was no Grandpa Wiggly, but he was just play acting as this old guy with his mayonnaise business, and it was just the funniest thing.
Right. People were probably pretty disappointed because they'd probably grown some affection towards this grandfather. As you look ahead, what are you inspired by, and sort of what is your hope for the future of Reddit?
So today, we have about 100 million people come to the platform every day.
Wow.
Which on one hand is a lot, but on the other hand, Reddit is communities, and communities are universal. And so I want everybody on the internet to be able to see this side of the internet and this side of people. I think there's something, much bigger than Reddit, that Reddit reveals, which is that everybody's got something interesting to say, that people are funnier and more insightful and more supportive and more helpful than I think we give them credit for. And so I think Reddit reveals the best of humanity. And I just hope that more people can see the world through this lens. And so, quite simply, look, our work is to try to grow Reddit. I think we've got a long way to go. I think there's a ton of opportunity here. And I think if we're successful in this, I think we'll look back and be really proud of what we've accomplished, which is connecting people around interests and passions, and I think showing a lighter side to the internet and to people more broadly.
It's such an interesting point because that's the thing that I always think when I'm on Reddit. Who are these people that have taken the time to write these sometimes the responses are incredibly thorough. Like, for example, I was going on a trip and I wanted to explore an island and what was the best way to do that. And you're getting like paragraphs of people like giving their recommendations. And so someone has taken the time to sit down and write that on Reddit for no other benefit than just sharing the information with someone like me that's really looking for it. And I just find that's really incredible.
I mean, I could not have said it better myself. I think that's the thing. And it's not like Reddit users are special. They're just people.
Just people.
And people want to be helpful. And I think looking at social media, sometimes we lose track of that, of just like, this is how people actually are. Because on Reddit, you don't take your reputation on Reddit with you to the real world. You don't get credit for what you say on Reddit. It's an anonymous platform. So all you get for being helpful on Reddit is a thank you and a few upvotes. And people find this incredibly rewarding to do that. And then you also can be vulnerable on Reddit and share maybe what you're worried about or what you're going through, and not have to worry that that's going to come with you off of Reddit as well. And so people can be, I think, authentic in a way that they can't be elsewhere. But I think that's one of the biggest lessons that we've had working on Reddit, is you get to see how people behave when nobody's watching. And it turns out it's overwhelmingly good. And I think this is a really powerful idea.
Love that. So we're going to move on to what I like to do at the end of some of these sessions, which is just a quick rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you a few brief questions. You can give me just a quick one-sentence answer. So if you were a brand new user of Reddit today, what is the first thing you would do, or where would you go?
If I was a brand new user, I'd probably go look up like a TV show that I just finished. So like for me, it was like White Lotus and Severance. But I think it's a very easy way to kind of experience Reddit, which is people just kind of talking about stuff, but sharing all these perspectives and theories that you might not see otherwise. Or maybe I'd find like a hobby or kind of book or author that I'm interested in, and see what the community has to say about that topic.
What is your favorite subreddit? You can say maybe a couple, since I'm sure you have a few.
Let's see. So I live in San Francisco. I love the San Francisco subreddit. I grew up as a programmer, as a software engineer, and so I've got lots of programming related subreddits. I still like to stay connected to those communities. Dadit. So it's a subreddit for dads, and that subreddit's amazing. I think it's kind of the classic kind of support subreddit. So you'll go there and there's probably something funny. There's probably somebody who needs some help. There's probably something touching or even sad, kind of all in the same place. But I think that kind of really captures the Reddit experience overall. But for me, the experience of being a dad to a couple of young kids, kind of getting to go through that with other people is really fun as well.
What is your best piece of advice for someone creating their first post on Reddit?
Know where you're posting. And so again, recognize that you're in a community of people. And so, like I said before, I think you want to be earnest. You want to maybe give more than you receive. But I wouldn't show up to Reddit on your first day and launch off a post. I think Reddit's different than social media. And so I spend a little time and just kind of understand the vibe. It's like joining any community, even a real world one. You show up, you kind of get a sense of how people are, of what the, unwritten rules are, what the decorum is, maybe get a sense of some of the inside jokes. And then as you feel, I think, more connected to the community, then I think posting will become very natural.
Final question for you, Steve. What is your favorite part of being CEO of Reddit?
It's such an interesting job. I get to do product and engineering work. There's a little it's almost like a political job at times. we get to grow. I know we're doing this for 20 years, but it still feels like a young business. There's so much opportunity. And I think, just every day there's a new challenge. It's such a kind of dynamic space that, I'm glad you asked that question. A question I get asked often is like, what are you going to do after Reddit? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, how can I do anything?
I'm in the present moment.
It's such a fun thing to work on.
That's awesome. Well, Steve, it's been an absolute honor to speak with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your ideas with our Canadian advisor audience. And we'll hopefully more people will be on the Reddit platform after this conversation. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Agnes. This was really my pleasure. Thanks, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Fidelity Connects podcast. Now, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Fidelity Connects on your podcast platform of choice. And if you like what you're hearing, leave a review or a 5-star rating. Fidelity mutual funds and ETFs are available by working with a financial advisor or through an online brokerage account. Visit fidelity.ca/howtobuy for more information. On fidelity.ca, you can also find more information on future live webcasts. And don't forget to follow Fidelity Canada on X. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Fidelity Investments Canada ULC or its affiliates. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, tax, or legal advice. It is not an offer to sell or buy, or an endorsement, recommendation, or sponsorship of any entity or security cited. Read a fund's prospectus before investing. Funds are not guaranteed. Their values change frequently, and past performance may not be repeated. Fees, expenses, and commissions are all associated with fund investments. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.